Hello, you beautiful people. Aaron here, back with another video. Today is Banner Day, this time with the Yae Miko and Yoimiya banners. I'm gonna hop right into it and discuss the value and worth of both the character banner and the weapon banner. But before we hop right into it, I just want to say that if you like my content, please take a bite out of that subscribe button down below. What does it taste like today? I don't know. Let's go with sugar cookie. That sound good? Sounds good to me. Now let's hop right into the character banner, and we'll start with Yae Miko. Yae Miko is a very good damage dealing unit in quick and focused comps. She is one of the best and most flexible characters in these teams, as she is able to act as a driver for hyperblooms, as an on-field DPS, or as an off-field DPS. However, all she offers is damage. She doesn't have the best electro application, she doesn't have good battery potential, and she doesn't offer defensive utility. She is also incredibly squishy, as she has the 6th lowest HP of all 5 stars in the game, and the 3rd lowest defense of all characters in the game. This is pretty bad, especially because she has a long setup time and is very vulnerable during all of it. There's even more bad aspects about Yae, as outside of Dendro, she has no place where she's actually good. It is completely outclassed by many other units, making her not as valuable, especially when a character like Fischl exists. In a good amount of situations, including in some Dendro comps, Fischl can also just outdamage Yae Miko. So why pull for Yae? Well, it's for her strength as a quicken and flexible DPS character, but that's all she offers. Yoimiya is in a somewhat similar boat to Yae, as she is a good unit and has some decent flexibility, but she is simply just outclassed by other units. However, unlike Yae Miko, she's strictly an on-field DPS whose value is diminished by the fact that she is in an oversaturated market of vaporized pyro DPS characters. The only unique comps that she could pull off that others can't is Overvape. She can work with these comps because she doesn't need to be in melee range, which makes the knockback from Overload less detrimental than it would be for other pyro main DPS units. She is also one of the few characters in the game that is a viable unit in a majority of the in-game content, as she could be used against most enemies, and due to her ranged attacks, she can easily take down flying enemies. While this doesn't make her super special, especially since Sumeru doubled the amount of these types of units in the game, it does mean that there is a reason to use her over others. Now let's just say you like these characters and you want to pull constellations for them. How good are they? For Yae Miko, her constellations are relatively worth it. Her first grants her energy back based on how many times her elemental burst strikes. This would reduce her burst cost from being the highest in the game at 90 to one of the lowest burst costs at 66. This constellation removes Yae's need for energy recharge and or electro resonance in order for her to use her burst. While it doesn't straight up increase her own damage, it does end up reducing her energy recharge requirement by between 40% and 100%, or anywhere between 7 to 18 energy recharge substats, which can now go toward crit. If you are able to get better artifacts after this energy recharge reduction, this constellation can increase her total damage output by up to 20% depending on the composition. Her second constellation is also very strong, as it increases her base skill damage by a sizable amount, leading to an overall damage increase of about 10.7%. Yae's constellations are crazy valuable, and she's one of the stronger C6 units, as once at C6, her total damage output is about double her C0 counterpart. Yoimiya is on the opposite side of the spectrum, sadly. Her C1 simply grants a 20% attack boost, and her C2 grants her a 25% pyro damage bonus. Now, not only are these constellations boring as hell, but they're also very underwhelming, as together they lead to only a 9.8% damage increase, which is on par with Yae Miko's second worst constellation, that of which being her C3. In total, Yoimiya only gains up to a 50% damage increase from C0 to C6, mostly due to her final constellation, which is a relatively strong damage increase, while the rest of her constellations get worse the more you get, until C6. But with the 5 stars out of the way, let's hop right into the 4 stars. Let's start from best to worst, and oh god, we're starting with a Geo character. Yunjin is a fantastic normal attack buffing support. However, she is simply just outclassed by Bennett, who does what she does, plus healing, and plus the fact that he buffs elemental skills and bursts too. Does that mean she's bad? No, just outclassed, even when Yunjin is at C6, since Bennett also doubles as a defensive support, which Yunjin cannot do. However, she does work as a good substitute for Bennett when paired with Yoimiya and Ayato. Up next is Chongyun, who is a unit. He's only ever seen as another support that pairs well with his auntie Shenhe for the icy quill damage, or for his burst damage output when melted with, normally in the national comp. However, outside of that, he just doesn't do much of anything, and even in those situations, there are just other better units. And finally, it's Ikiki, the worst there is. Now, while I have thought that she was a good character before, after seeing for myself how Baiju, who is just a 5-star Ikiki, works, I have changed my mind find on Ikiki. I don't believe she's going to be a strong character since she has the strict rotation times and the need for on-field time of Kaveh mixed with the lower dendro application of Baiju. While my opinion on her may change again in the future, as of right now, I see her as merely a Dendro Layla and nothing more. Overall, if I had to sum up all my thoughts into one word for the character banner, I would describe it as Outlast. No one here is necessary when better, more free-to-play options like Fischl, Xiangling, Bennett, every other cryo character, and Yao Yao all exist. The only times I could see warranting someone pulling on this banner is for some very specific reason, or if they just like the characters, which is, you know, fine. Otherwise, to me, this character banner is mostly a skip. Now let's move on to the weapon banner, starting with the 5 stars again. The Thundering Pulse is a very strong stat stick bow. However, its value as a weapon is dramatically lower due to there being other better stat sticks and more available stat sticks. For Yoimiya, her signature weapon is also not that much better than the rest, which makes this weapon not that valuable. Like, it's a fine weapon, but not that great compared to other options. However, for Yoimiya herself, the upgrade from Rust to this weapon is a bit larger than aiming for Constellations on her. So if you're looking for a specific Yoimiya upgrade, Thundering Pulse should be your go-to. Now on the other hand, Kagura's Verity is cracked. This weapon is the best damaging catalyst and is leagues better than almost every other catalyst in the game. Well, all but the Widsith. Kagura's Verity is a great weapon and is definitely the best option there is for any damage-oriented character, but it's not that much better than the Widsith. In terms of consistent DPS, it beats out the Widsith for Yae Miko by at most around 10%, but in terms of burst damage, which can be great for speedrunning, the Widsith is better than Kagura's Verity. Then there's the fact that it only buffs elemental skill damage until it has reached max stacks, which can be hard to reach on some DPS catalyst characters. So will I recommend getting Kagura's Verity? No, not with the Widsith being in the game, which is just as strong of a weapon as Kagura's with its own positives and negatives. There's also the fact that Yae Miko has some crazy powerful early constellations, which makes her signature weapon appear less valuable for her. Now time to get into the 4 stars of the matter, going from best to worst. The Widsith is the best damaging catalyst in the game. It is only bested in terms of consistency by the Kagura's Verity for general use purposes or other signature weapons for certain other characters. While there are not a crap ton of damaging catalyst characters and even less actual good ones, one of their highest damaging options available is the Widsith, which is why it's so valuable. Even in the future, due to the fact that it grants a bunch of different stats, the Widsith is almost always going to be a very valuable option. Then there's Akoumaru, which is one of the best claymores. The burst damage it grants is tremendous, especially for a team that needs a lot of energy. However, in terms of power, it is generally on par with both Favoni's Greatsword and the Serpent's Spine, which are both much more versatile and therefore much more valuable. Now onto the Dragon's Bane, which I would say is about on par with Akoumaru. Maybe a bit better, maybe a bit worse, depends. Dragon's Bane is a strong weapon for a bunch of characters. It has gotten even better since Dendro's release. However, this is the 50 billionth time that they have given us this weapon on a weapon banner, and honestly, I'm kind of sick of it. Like, can they stop giving us this weapon? It's strong, but I'm just annoyed that it's here all the time. Moving on to the Rust before I rant, the Rust is a very powerful 4-star weapon for Tartaglia and Yoimiya, as it is able to rival some 5 stars in terms of power level. This is especially the case for Yoimiya, as the Rust at high refinements is her second best weapon, as it's only outperformed by her signature weapon. The main fault of the Rust is that it's not versatile, since most bow characters are off-field, skilled with a differing stat, or they just don't use normal attacks. Then finally there's the Flute, which is honestly one of the worst weapons in the game, flat out. What do I have to say about the Flute? It's just outscaled by a 3-star weapon. Need I say more? There's not much to it. So how is the weapon banner looking? In my opinion, it's pretty poo. It's kind of good to build some pity on, but it has no Favonius weapon, so it's a skip in my book. But now for this banner segment as a whole, it's not like these banners are awful, but they're not great either. The 5-star characters are pretty good and easier to use, but they're also very replaceable. 4-star characters are just completely outclassed in many regards. 5-star weapons are more specific stat stick weapons that are not that much worth it over other options available. And then for the 4-star weapons, while there aren't any Favonius weapons available, the weapons that are there are pretty powerful and decently versatile. But in all, these banner sets are pretty bad. There's not much to go for that offers a lot of value. So unless you really like the characters, I see no reason to even think about this banner set. But now I want to pass the conversation on to you. What do you think of these banners? Are you pulling? What are you pulling for? Or are you planning to save for that mega banner coming up next? Tell me your thoughts in the comments below. But that's all I have for today. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to see you all next time. Bye bye!